I saw you start it last time.
I swear I did, but who knows?
I'll know.
My heart
We're all noting that right now it says we started the recording.
It does. It says recording and transcription happening right now. All right.
When I went to click record and transcribed and it said start recording, I was like, oh, that is not good.
All right. We'll get started. I'll read my intro if you're ready. All right. Hello and welcome to our virtual movie discussion. Today's topic is the 1995 HBO television movie, The Tuskegee Airmen. I am one of your hosts, Dr. Karen Wisely. I teach history at Northeast Campus, and I'm joined here by my colleagues.
Hi, I am Chloe Northrop. I am at the Connect campus. I'm a professor of history, and I am the department chair at Connect.
Hi, I'm Samantha Elkins. I also teach just history. I am not a department head at Northeast Campus.
Yet.
Thank your lucky stars. Pat.
Am I next? Yeah. Hey, I'm Pat. I'm teaching the Paralegal Studies Department with everybody who knows Karen Silver. I'm the other person.
There you go. It is our custom that I introduce the film by reading the logline or brief description of the film, and then we go over the main cast members and where you may have seen them before. So the logline of the Tuskegee Airmen is the true story of how a group of African-American pilots overcame racist opposition to become one of the finest U.S. fighter groups in World War II. It stars Lawrence Fishburne as Hannibal Lee. If you know him at all, it should be as Morpheus in the various Matrix movies, or for the youngsters, you might know him as Pops in television's Blackish. But really, he's Morpheus, so watch The Matrix. Alan Payne as Walter Peoples. You may know him as CJ Payne in the long-running BET series House of Payne. It's been on for 12 seasons, and I literally have never heard of it until I looked this man up. Malcolm Jamal Warner as Leroy Cappy. You should know him as Theo Huxtable on the Cosby Show. It's taboo now, but literally everyone watched it in the late 80s to 1990s. And he's also been a regular on a few other television shows as well, most recently The Resident, but nothing as popular as the Cosby Show was. Andre Braugher as Benjamin O. Davis. We remember him from one of our very first episodes, Glory. He was fantastic in that. He was also outstanding in Brooklyn Nine-Nine. Unfortunately, Andre Braugher passed away in December, and we're all very, very sad about that. Christopher McDonald as Major Joy. You may remember him as Shooter McGavin in Happy Gilmore. That's all you get to remember him by. Sorry, just the one. Daniel Hugh Kelly as Colonel Rogers. You probably don't remember him if you're Samantha's age. He was on a soap opera called Ryan's Hope from 1978 to 1981. Then he starred as Mark Skid McCormick in Hardcastle and McCormick from 1983 to 1986. Since then, he's done other stuff, but those were the big ones. John Lithgow as Senator Conyers. You should know him as Reverend Shaw Moore from 1984's original Footloose, the one with Kevin Bacon. Or you may know him as Dr. Dick Solomon, one of the aliens in Third Rock from the Sun in the late 90s, possibly as the Trinity Killer from season 4 of Dexter. But more recently, he played Winston Churchill in the first 3 seasons of The Crown. Cuba Gooding Jr. as Billy A-Train Roberts. You may know him from 1991's Boys in the Hood. But if we're honest, it's more likely you know him for his Academy Award-winning role of Rod Tidwell in Jerry Maguire. Show me the money, right? That's his catchphrase. Oh, he was also in a relatively recent American Horror Story, plus he played OJ in the American Crime Story.
Okay, and also I just saw a Red Tails poster. Was he in that movie as well?
I think he might have been, yeah.
Yeah, because he was on it. And I was like, oh, okay. Like, tie it. And then I wondered, is there like a tie-in? And then I was like, maybe that's this. So really remember that one.
Finally, Mekhi Phifer as Lewis Johns. He was Dr. Gregory Pratt on ER, and that's all that matters. The Tuskegee Airmen was directed by Robert Markowitz and was released in 1995. As an HBO television movie, it was nominated for 10 Primetime Emmy Awards, and it won 3. Outstanding sound editing for a miniseries or a special, outstanding editing for a miniseries or special, single camera production, and outstanding casting for a miniseries or a special. The running time for the Tuskegee Airmen, Samantha, is 1 hour and 46 minutes.
Love that one.
Not a 3-hour movie. So
I just have to say, this semester we have a much shorter movies, generally speaking, except for last week, or not last week, 2 weeks ago with Schindler's List. So
yeah, well, that one, yeah.
Yeah. I had a quick question for all of you because I am being given a hard time about this already. So I want to know, did anyone else cry during this film, or if is it just me?
I didn't cry. It was really sad though. It was, but I didn't cry, no.
No comment.
Pat cried.
I'm maybe not alone.
Look, I was just trying to determine if there's something wrong with me or if maybe Samantha's just a crier. I don't know.
I'm a crier.
I do. I feel like I get emotional sometimes. Oh, Kinsey said she had a few. Okay, you're not alone, Samantha. Good.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, it was very sad, and in several places, it was really, it was very moving. But I didn't cry this time. Not like Schindler's List, where I got like really choked up.
Yeah.
I didn't cry like that. I wasn't a mess. It was like I was really good. And then Cuba, okay, spoilers for everybody. Cuba Gooding Jr., his character when he dies, because everybody dies in this film except for Morpheus.
Yeah.
Wait, I believe the Colonel is also still alive.
Okay, and Andre Bauer, he's still alive. But like, yeah, no, and like the plane's going down and they're singing together. It was more the camaraderie.
Yes, exactly, Cody. That's exactly the moment that it was a sad death. And then she cried further because they had talked about don't ever expect to get a medal for any of this, and then he got
and then he gets all the medals, but he's the only one alive getting all the medals. And I've realized that anything with civil rights apparently makes me sob, because I cried at the LBJ Museum, but it was the civil rights section.
And I haven't made fun of you at all for that.
It's things just get you. Yeah.
Okay, I'm so thankful though that other people out there understand. I'm glad to hear that. What are you guys' thoughts on the movie and everything? I'd love to hear more. I just had to get that out there before I forgot.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, honestly, for me, I had not seen this movie. I had seen Red Tails, which is a different movie, but similar theme. And so that's why, and also I guess has Cuba Gooding Jr. So, and honestly, there you go. Now, I was thinking a 1995 movie, it could be rather dated in many ways. Certain things could be. And like, yes, the special effects left some, and then again, I felt like maybe I'm a little bit biased right now because I just started watching Masters of the Air, which is a show on Apple TV right now. I don't know if anybody's heard of it. And they are going to have the Tuskegee Airmen in it. They have not, as of, I've released the first 3 episodes. I think the 4th dropped last night. They have not yet introduced them, but we know that they're coming based on the previews. And one of my professor friends was like trying to guess what episode based on like where they are geographically, where the Tuskegee Airmen are at this time. And I'm like, that's way too deep for me. But
That's amazing.
But I did really appreciate, I mean, and honestly, Masters of the Air, I have not been sucked into, and it was interesting watching them both kind of at the same time. I don't want to dominate this conversation here, but
no, that's okay.
At the same time, because obviously the graphics in Masters of the Air are excellent. It is a really incredible show to watch that way. It's actually like, for me, it's a little intense with these air things because like, so you can't like see things coming and then people are getting like shot coming down and I'm like, oh, like, and I also, as a historian, I'm typically used to knowing the story already, how it's going to end. And I don't like the anxiety of like, who's going to make it and who isn't. And like, we've talked about that before, like I sometimes just have to look it up before because I like honestly just like already need to know because I just can't like handle the uncertainty. And so I'm having a little bit of problem with that. But what I thought was interesting, just comparing the two at the same time, is I have not been sucked into the story in Masters of the Air, the characters yet so much. None of them, I think if they died right now, would I cry or even feel that emotional over, because I don't feel like I know anything about them. I don't know their story. And so to me, like then watching Tuskegee Airmen, where you immediately, they draw you into these characters, they give you a little bit of their backdrop. Where are they from? What had they studied in school? Things like that, because I think that, again, you had a tie-in so that when something did happen, you felt it. And you felt also the bigger picture of what's going on, too, in this struggle. Versus Master of the Air feels very isolated. And I get in times of war, that's maybe probably how people are. You're not seeing sometimes maybe a bigger picture that, you know, you're just seeing like where they're at that moment. But I don't know any of those characters in Masters of the Air, their names. I don't know anything about them. I don't know like where they're from, who they're fighting for. I mean, you see a lot of cool aerial shots and shooting and all that stuff. But for me, I also, in a series like this, want to know a story. I want to be able to like feel for these characters and root for them as well. And we get that they're the good guys. And I mean, obviously it's super easy, like they're good versus bad. But with this, I felt in Tuskegee Airmen, at least, that you had an affinity towards these characters. You wanted them to succeed. You wanted them to go improve themselves. You didn't want them to fail in any way. Like you felt that they were getting held to this higher standard and everything. So I'm wondering, Masters of the Air starts when they're already in England. And I'm wondering, maybe backing that up a little could have given you some of that time to get to know them and love them in a way that I thought in Tuskegee Airmen, at least, I was really rooting for them the whole time. Like you did. You wanted all of them to just do well and succeed.
It's possible. Like I think maybe we should schedule like one of these to talk about like about those once it's over, the big three, the Band of Brothers, the Pacific, and Masters of the Air. And I'll tell you, like, I haven't watched Masters of the Air yet because I've know this about myself now. I'm a binger. Mm-hmm. And this, you know, releasing one every week thing and having to wait a week between episodes.
Who has the time for that?
I'm gonna say that's so 90s.
It is.
Going back to that 90s and the 80s. How could you do that?
You just dump that stuff out there and I'll decide how I want to watch it. Thank you very much. So I'm waiting. But even between the Band of Brothers and the Pacific, there wasn't that gut-wrenching emotional connection to these people. And I think maybe if I have to postulate on that, it's because in Band of Brothers, they talk to the survivors, the guys that survive, and they interview those guys, and they're older men crying a lot of times because of the things that had happened. So you get that it's still very fresh in their minds, and very, you know, things that are still, you know, emotionally gut-wrenching to them, and maybe that gives you more of a connection. I don't know, and we're losing that now because we don't have these folks in the numbers that we used to. But maybe it is seeing them in training too, because that's very, very important. I mean, and seeing how, you know, they're having to band together against the racism of even the people who are training them don't think they're good enough. And it kind of does bring you on their side right away, I think. And so it is emotional. I apologize to Samantha that I was not crying, and you know, but maybe there is something wrong with me. So
I will say I'll take the opposite stance a little bit here.
Yeah.
I liked it, but it felt like we were seeing surface level characterization. And so I think that's one reason that there's all these people die before Cuba Gooding Jr. And I didn't feel like shedding a tear for any of them. I felt bad. I was like, oh, that's kind of a bummer. And I won't lie, when Peoples died, I was like, wait, what? No, I was kind of angry, but I wasn't upset because I was more angry at him because I was like, you were the best and you could have figured something out. And anyway. But I felt like so much of the characterization was surface level that it took me until that far into the film to actually feel enough of a connection to get to the point of crying. And I feel like if I had really gotten to know these characters, because I think about certain shows that are known for that, I think of all things, the thing that comes to mind is when everybody was watching Lost, and everyone was like, the thing that was really good about it was the characters in the first season, that you felt for these characters. And I really wish it was one of those things, watching it felt like a TV movie, but it felt like it could have been a longer, actually a mini series, a series.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because all of these characters, I wanted to learn more about them. That I was like, oh, cool. One of you has an art history degree. I want to learn more about them, why you're here.
Yeah.
And we didn't even really get to learn why Lawrence Fishburne's character was there, besides the opening scene that he's a kid, right?
Yeah, that was very unattached to the rest of it, I thought. It wasn't.
But this is just telling you, to me, how little Masters of the Air is doing to bring you in, because I feel far more connected to the characters than I do now. 3 episodes into Masters of the Air where I don't know any of their names. So that's just maybe telling you how I'm feeling about that. I don't know.
Maybe it is.
You're right. Wonder maybe some of these episodes where they do those flashbacks, so you see maybe what's drawing them to that moment that they're at now. I kind of like those sometimes, where they're the beginning part of the episode does something and then later it ties in, you're like, whoa. I'm a sucker for that for sure.
Yeah.
So,
and especially when they do the mini series, when they dedicate each episode to seeing and it would have been. And I just, as a petty human being, will always like to point out that Samantha gives me the most trouble whenever I pick long movies, and then every time I pick a short one, she's like, man, I wanted more. And
the problem is, I don't think that sometimes the movie actually does that in a way that maybe a miniseries does.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I feel like miniseries are better at certain characterizations in a way that movies, I don't know. Or are we just so inundated with shows now that that's what we're used to seeing?
Well, I think that for an event, for a big event, like D-Day or something like that, that you can show a 2.5, 3 hour movie or whatever and get a pretty good glimpse of it and understand what's going on. I'm thinking of Saving Private Ryan and all of that, right? But whenever you're talking about a unit, you really do kind of need to see the people from the different areas, the different parts of the country, and what their background was, especially for this one, because this is, to be a pilot and to be a Black pilot in World War II, you had to be a very, 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 very qualified, impressive human being. And so I would really, really like to know more about these guys, because it kind of gives you a glimpse of that whenever they all go around and say what their degrees were in, and it's like, oh, of course you're all college graduates, which is amazing in the 1940s that they were all college graduates, but how did you find yourself here? What drew you? I mean, we saw that one scene that was so disconnected to everything, of him laying in the field with the plane going over him, and then he had a toy plane that he was flying. But I was like, I wasn't even entirely sure which guy that was supposed to be as a child, and what did he know the guy that was flying the plane? Was that why he was interested in it? Otherwise, he's just chasing a plane, which sounds weird. I don't know.
I remember Dr. Moy though talking about one of the, I think it was a Tuskegee Airman from Fort Worth, I think so, and how he just loved when he was little going to Meacham Airport and just watching the planes. Like, and I know like there's kids who like get really into things. I don't know.
Yeah, they do.
Really into like dinosaurs or like something. So I was wondering, like, was he just as a kid like really into planes? And that's like the thing. So I kind of like maybe wonder about that there, if that was kind of a call for some of those stories that they were like, I always lived, like I just was obsessed as when I was little with that. So that's kind of what I was wondering when I saw that scene. Because I mean, I would think that they must have looked at some of those oral histories and stuff to be able to craft. Because I looked up a little bit about like who these characters were, because then I wanted to know more about them. And they were saying a lot of them are like composite individuals.
I was going to say, Cody Russell just made a really, really nice point on the side that maybe it's because the movie is less about the individuals and it's more like you guys were saying about the unit. We're supposed to be seeing how the unit together, what they had to go through together. And I do like that kind of interpretation of the movie because, I mean, it is called the Tuskegee Airmen, not Morpheus and the Tuskegee Airmen.
But also, to me,
whatever his name is,
this gave an impression that, like hardly any of them survive. Because I think you didn't see like how many maybe there were compared to
because it was just this one small unit.
I was thinking about like 90% of them died. And I feel like that. I think Godesay had that little kind of call card at the end to like place it in a larger context. But I think that maybe, because we lost so many, it was misleading about the overall like mortality rates, which I think were far less than maybe what was depicted in the movie. Because they were.
Yeah. So my uncle was a pilot in 44 and got shot down over France in 44. And something Samantha said, something that Chloe just said was, if you go back and research and you look, he barracked with 18 pilots. And every day they'd go out, and every day they'd come back and they'd mark somebody else off the list. And all 18 eventually, they showed one MIA because he just hadn't found him yet. Including my uncle, all 18 pilots perished. Yet each day the ones coming in, they just went out and did it again. And they knew they weren't probably going to any chance of coming back. It's just amazing. And they just did their jobs, So my uncle was just written a letter home that his wife was pregnant, and he never got to see the baby. He's my cousin. He's a preacher in Abilene, but never, talk about heroes, just absolute heroes.
Those got, like, I was reading the thing with Cody, it seemed like very dangerous jobs in those planes.
Well, the airplanes themselves, they were nothing like they were now. You saw what they're flying. You saw my uncle flew a P-47, but they were just big old giant machines that just drug them through the air. And they're just, on fire, ejecting, none of that happened there. When your plane was hit, you just took it to the ground, and stuff. So, but all heroes.
I want to take a second here, and I'm going to put this in the chat. It's for our next event, which is February 22nd, which is Dr. Moy, who Chloe had talked about here. Dr. Todd Moy from UNT is going to come and talk, and he did interview a lot of these of the surviving Tuskegee Airmen, and began the Tuskegee Airmen Oral History Project. That's a part of the National Park Service. So if you are on campus, here's the flyer.
Karen, this is not on my list.
Oh, we just got, oops.
It's at the same time as one of our events. I am so sad. I'd love to hear Dr. Moy talk.
We are recording it, Chloe,
good.
So it will be available.
I am posting it right now in our on the website.
All right. So that is, that's coming up in a week and a half, something like that. So yes, if you are on Northeast Campus, please come and join us. Or even if you're not and you're in the area, you want to come and join us for that. We're really excited about getting him to talk here. He does have a lot of good stories. The thing about talking to oral historians is that we do all of these interviews, and then those interviews becomes part of our own stories, and we tell them to everybody. We recount them to everybody that we talk to. Just ask my classes how many oral history stories I've told them. So yeah, it should be a great event, and of course there's pizza. So, so welcome. Too many and not enough. Yeah. The other thing I want to point out, though, about Tuskegee Airmen is at the end it does give you some incorrect information, and that is that they never lost a bomber, and they did. You pretty much couldn't. You couldn't do what they did and not ever lose a bomber. And they did, but it wasn't, their success rate was still very, very, very good. And even comparatively to other fighter units that were escorting bombers, but they did lose an occasional bomber. Sorry. And sometimes, I don't know about you guys, but sometimes I wonder, it's like, the truth is good enough there, right? The truth is they're a really good unit. They're awesome. They did a great job. Why do we need to, exaggerate and say they never lost a bomber? I don't know.
I was wondering that too, because I did remember in Dr. Moy's talk saying like that was kind of debunked. But then I was wondering, was that what was maybe historiographically going around in 1995 still? Like that was my question. Had we just not uncovered enough? Had we just had these like legends gone out and we had to like?
I mean, it's possible because it seems like that would be about when Moy was getting out of college and starting that oral history project, and a lot of the research that was being done then with the airmen to bring it together to be that National Park Service location. I think maybe that's what it is that this was the best information they had at the time. I hope so, because I really don't like that.
30 years old. So maybe it's just like there's just more information now, I would hope, but yeah. 30 years old next year.
My guess is there's probably an element of needing more information, but also if there were people who were talking about it saying it was, oh, no, it's a very small amount. That never sounds as good. It never can quite hit the same kind of gut punch of like, oh, they've barely lost any compared to they've lost none.
Yeah.
It does have a different like ring to it. And so my guess is there's a lot of those kinds of things that we do historically speaking, just because it's easier to explain, because you could even be like, oh no, if you look at the ones they lost, they're like, I bet there's even nuance to those and everything like that. And it's kind of like, but that's not going to get the same kind of attention the same way. And I'm not saying that they were attention gathering. It's more trying to show that, look, these African Americans, they went through so much to even be there, to even be included. And then they had a very low loss rate. Not just amongst the bombers, but amongst each other, actually. Because that's what I was kind of surprised in the movie. I'm so glad that, Pat, you mentioned like all the different people dying. On one hand, the movie was so accurate, showing kind of more like the realities of war. But at the same time, it wasn't accurate to the realities of the Tuskegee Airmen, especially when we're only following like 6 of them and 5 of them die.
Right.
Like statistically speaking. So I think there's a choice that you have to make there. And I bet that that's kind of that exaggeration.
Yeah. And didn't you say also that none of them died during training? but
None of them
but
died
yet they
during
killed a
training.
couple of them in training there.
Now, there are people who died on air bases in trainings. There was not just men who died during trainings. We have actual women pilot in the WASPs who died during trainings, lugging anti-aircraft and like the one, oh my gosh, like stalling out planes and everything like that. Because that was kind of horrific watching that moment, because you're just like watching them like fall and you're like, fix it, fix it.
Yeah.
Speaking of, where's my good Wasp movie?
I know, we need that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be
But
nice to have.
nobody committed suicide either from any of the documentation that I could find. I'm curious. I'm going to have to ask Dr. Moy if he knows of any of that. But I, from what I could find, I never saw any of that. And so I was kind of sad, because on one hand, I understood why they included that, because there is this mental
pressure.
Oh, yeah. But I was also bummed, because I was like, but that didn't happen.
Right.
And that guy, like, you know, happening on the heels of him like berating, you know, well, I think I guess I'll make it or something like that. No, you absolutely will. And then, oh man, yeah, it was a bummer. It was a definite real bummer. Yeah. Look, Samantha and I had a long discussion whenever we did the podcast episode about the fact that all of the racists in this movie had Southern accents.
Yeah.
And how Samantha's making fun of me because she's like, we need more diversity in our races, but kinda, because
Well,
it
you were
gives
like, not all racists.
Not all racists.
Not all racists were Southerners, is what I'm saying. That they
Yeah.
and I'm not Southern.
Like,
I think
yeah.
that's important to add. I myself am not a Southerner. I am from the North, and I just think
you're
it's
from the Midwest. Is
it's
that the North?
Northern Midwest.
Okay.
I mean,
Okay.
that I just think it's important to note that they face racism more than in the South. Now, in the beginning, you know, when they all get on the train and they pick up different people at different places on the train, and they're all fine until they, you know, get to the South, and then it's like, oh, you got to move to a different train car. Like, okay, that's legit. That's legit. You didn't necessarily have to do that in the northern states, and you did in the South. That is legitimate. But that they faced absolutely no one like bumping them or calling them, you know, names or anything like that while they were riding in the North. That's probably didn't happen. And that the only kind of racism that they are going to show in this thing is, you know, it's like that one dude who's like from Texas, and his buddies from California is like, well, thank you, you guys are awesome, and he's like, I'm from Texas, and you know, and it was just like, of course he's from Texas. You know, why did we have to point that out? I mean, there were racists and are racists all over this country, and to go through the extra effort of making sure that, you know, these guys are from the South, that's why they're acting that way. It's not necessary, and it's also not true. So it isn't, Samantha, I'm not pointing not all races. Oh my God. No, I'm just saying that it's wider than that. It is that net is wider than that. It isn't just, wow, we only really had problems with the South or people from the South. It's no, the problems were there every step of the way. And I didn't like the very strict dichotomy of, you know, the senator that was trying to get him thrown out, and it was Southern, and the one that was trying to help them was from the North. And I don't necessarily think that kind of painting with a broad stroke is going to be good here. So that's just
question in here. The Eleanor Roosevelt part, is that true? Did she go to the base and fly? Okay. Yeah. That's it.
Except,
I was gonna look at it, I was like, I'll just ask Karen.
Yeah. except that that she didn't fly with that particular pilot, who, by the way, didn't exist.
Right.
She flew with the officer.
The trainer, the black trainer that was there, he is probably based off of one like Chief Anderson or something, I believe is the name. And he actually, they actually didn't have enough takers originally in the Tuskegee Airmen. And basically he was like working close by to the base or with the base. And they're like, hey, you should also apply and work and become a Tuskegee Airman. And he was like, I guess. And then he did. And then he ends up flying Eleanor Roosevelt, of all people, up in his plane. And there are actual pictures taken. I was a little bummed because I learned this even after we had already done our podcast, Karen. I went and I looked up more stuff about it because I'm a big fan of Eleanor. If I'd had a daughter, her name would have been Eleanor.
There's still time, Samantha.
I have 3. No, I'm done. I got 3 boys, everybody who doesn't know. I'm good. But I love Eleanor. And so it was one of those things I was curious about it. I was like, how much of this was accidental and how much was purposeful? Because she was really a huge proponent of civil rights for the African American community during this time. And she was the one who was pushing FDR into his limited agenda on a lot of that. And so I kind of was like, I wonder how much was this on accident? Was this on purpose? Did she take advantage of the situation? And it turns out she was the one who like showed up and was like, no, this is what I want to do. And then she made sure those pictures got published in actual like newspapers up north and in other parts of the country. And it is that moment that helped spur them to be actually taken across the Atlantic. And I was like, on one hand, I'm really glad the movie didn't include that because it would have felt a little white savior-ish, which I don't love as a movie trope. But as someone who loves Eleanor Roosevelt, I was also kind of sad I didn't see it.
Yeah. What else? I just want to point out that in the chat, I just posted the survey. If all of our guests could fill out that survey, it will help us greatly. One of the questions is how you learned about this. That's pretty important. And we're collecting data. Please help us out with that. And it also it allows us to give your professors information that you were here if it's for extra credit purposes. We'd also like to open up the floor to anybody who would like to share their thoughts about this movie. Did you all watch it? Or I know Cody did. We talked about that in class. He'd seen it once and he was going to watch it again before he to make it fresh before he came here. There you go. See, so if anybody else has any kind of comments or questions, even we can see what we liked about it, or we can answer any questions that you might have. I'm really looking forward to talking to Dr. Moy. And if you have questions that you would like for us to ask him, you can also include those, and we will keep track of those for him. Full disclosure, Dr. Moy was one of my major professors on my dissertation committee. So yeah, he's after me to call him Todd now, and I'm just not comfortable with that at all. Yeah.
One thing I looked up if any were still alive, and it seems like last year we lost the last one, I believe. So that made me kind of sad.
I think that's true. Yeah.
And also just that the story continued to be kind of sad after World War II, as many of them faced discrimination getting jobs. And that was, I mean, it was and still is an incredibly rewarding career for many people. And they're able to have a really lovely life being a pilot. I mean, I don't know about like your work-life balance and that, but it's very economically stable career, especially, and many pilots nowadays, commercial pilots still today are military and transition to civilian pilots. So that would have been a very natural transition at that time as well. I would imagine as commercial airline was really starting to grow post World War II as well. I mean, not to what we see nowadays, obviously, but it's in a time where it was growing. And so to think that they continue to face that discrimination after going and serving your country is sad, but I think an important truth for us to think about as well. Yeah, I know, like,
yeah,
not the happiest stories always that we're.
I know. We're asking them to like take away the like happy ending of the medals and all of that, and like, hey, show how they were
get a job, but also like that medals, and then guess what? Like when you get home, you might not be able to get like a home and job, even though you're like incredibly qualified. Yeah. So
yeah, but but those are important stories to tell, and it just like lends credence to our call for it to become a mini series, because that could be part of it, and even if it wasn't part of it, like maybe a coda. And again, I'm thinking of Band of Brothers, because I always think of Band of Brothers because I love that show. But there is the coda at the end where it says, that this guy, went, got the chance to have his farm and live, married and this and kids and all of that. And there's nothing like that. And look, I think we've already said spoiler, but the only actual person depicted in the Tuskegee Airmen was that Benjamin O. Davis, right? Andre Brower's character. The rest are conglomerations of other Tuskegee Airmen. So I guess they couldn't show us what happened, but they could have given like some kind of a rundown of some of these guys went on to be pilots, some of them did these things, how many were still alive in 95 or something like that. That would have been, and again, it's
going from like the basically almost historical fiction of the movie to the actual history, and how it kind of continued to play out. Because I think that there's this kind of, it does end on a happy note, and I'm like, would love to know, like, what did that actually mean for individuals heading into the 50s, of this time of prosperity, of this time where we think about like, unprecedented growth or whatever. What did that actually mean for qualified Black individuals in America then, who are coming home from World War II, where we see the GI Bill and all those things that are making life so different for so many Americans? What does that mean for our Black veterans coming back from World War II? And I think the mentioning about the Black veteran from World War I being lynched, I think that was kind of that like important sobering moment in there. And we didn't mention, but one of the most moving parts of this film, of course, is when they land with the plane, that's been like had the engine problem on the road there. And that was, I feel like that was like one of those moments where I was like good a little bit.
I was so scared. I was so scared something bad was going to happen, though. I was like, oh no, they're going to land right there. Oh no. I was terrified for them.
But I think to show like the inspirational, symbolism of individuals of color flying, I think that was obviously incredibly moving. And also to show how rare it was for there to be, African-American gentlemen flying airplanes, that it was not a common sight. I mean, but then again, we think about just like anybody flying planes at this time, like Pat was saying, like this is not a common thing for people to be doing at all. Flying airplanes, my goodness. And, my husband is a pilot, he's a private pilot, and his instructor when we were in college. And I mean, I know you're probably like, well, that was a million years ago. I get that, students, but this was in the his instructor was a World War II pilot who had been shot down as well, and said that his wife was an angel, and he believes that his wife was sent down from heaven as an angel to give him hope during that time so that he could make it back home when he was like hiding out, I think in France and stuff, before he got back. So anyways, it's a really powerful story to just think about any individual flying at this time, but particularly I think it was just fabulous seeing this group of people. And I think you're right, a mini series would have just made it so much better. And again, I'm the one who complains too about how long these movies are.
I know. I know. I can't win is what I'm hearing here.
That's exactly right. We'll complain either way.
Samantha, you're muted. Samantha, you're muted.
She's just going on.
Yeah.
There you go. I was going to say,
now we can hear you. Yeah.
They did such a good job doing a conglomeration of real people into these characters. You wanted to learn more about them. You wanted to know their before. You wanted to know their after. You wanted to have that. And especially it didn't have your standard plot. Like it wasn't the standard, more tension, you get to the climax and then solution. It was a little bit more up and down. And I always find that lends itself, I feel like, better to a mini series or something. And so I was one of those like, I want to know more. And especially because they did like to do the cutting away from like, the battles with the actual World War II footage, which you could tell was very clearly World War II footage.
I liked that.
I liked it, but it was very jarring.
Yeah, no, it was. It kind of got you out of the movie for a minute.
Yeah, and they do that, and then they jump back to camp. So I liked that they did that, and I wouldn't have minded even more those things. So sorry, Karen. We're gonna just always complain to you.
Yeah. Well, I'm okay. I can't win. It's fine. I would like to point out, though, since Sarah's not here, we can throw her under the bus. That Samantha's husband was complaining that I chose the saddest movies, and Sarah suggested that we have as a theme one semester all movies about what is it, like Holocaust and genocide. That's it, genocide. That's the so that's
we're not probably going to do that.
No, because we would all be so depressed at the end of it that we wouldn't be able to function. But
once again, if any of you out there have any suggestions for us, movies, questions, things like that, we always love getting those, because that does help us to, get more students hopefully interested in history.
Yes. Yeah. And speaking of, if you would like to come to the Trinity River campus, and this is not a feel-good thing either, see an exhibit about Indian boarding schools and children who were forcibly removed from their families. There is an exhibit right now for the month of February here in our library. And if you look at the site that's been posted here, you'll see there's a lot of events going on. Next Thursday, we have a panel called Indian Boarding Schools Past, Present, and Future. And we have a boarding school survivor, Dora Bot-Plenty. We have Jody Boyce Yellowfish, who is, I believe, came onto your campus last year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. She did.
With missing and murdered Indigenous women, Texas Rematriate. And then Elizabeth Gravel from Fort Worth ISD, who is in charge of Native American education for Fort Worth ISD. So we have the past, present, and then future with our education. That's in the fish tank here at Trinity River next Thursday at 12:30, and food will be provided. So definitely come on by. We're going to have movie screenings and several other guest lectures this throughout the month. And so if you go to that site, there's several different things. Also, next Thursday evening is college night at the Amon Carter Museum in Fort Worth. And so it's once a semester. We aren't throwing it, they are, but that means because they're doing it, there's food, music, there's like drinks being served, there's all kinds of stuff. So that's at the Amon Carter Museum of Fort Worth next Thursday evening. So if you look at that Google site, it's on there. Yes, Kinsey, great question. We will have everything both live and streaming. So if you look at that, if you just go to the site that's linked there, you'll see all the different events with either the in-person or the virtual options available for that. So for all of the events this semester, there should be both, or in the case of, yeah, no, there is one for race as well. You're going to join for that. I think, yeah, I mean, for everything, we have a lot of stuff still throughout the semester being posted on that site, and I'm updating it as soon as I get any more events as well. So, and then remember to go to the recorded past events for everything except for our last movie discussion list. So besides that, we have everything posted on there.
Hey, nobody's perfect. we get as
it's Tees that wasn't perfect that day.
There you go.
That's not pressing something.
We do the best we can with the material that we have, and you know, that's all you can ask for.
Special, and we also got upgraded on Teams, which I am arguing it is not an upgrade, but nobody's Yes. So we're really, so I hope to see you in person and virtually throughout this month and next month and beyond. Yes.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. And, you know, thanks for filling out the survey. Should I put the survey up again, or
when I have a sad announcement, I will not be with you all next time because I will be presenting at the Consortium of the Revolutionary Era in the peripheries of the American Revolutionary panel on Admiral George Rodney's reception in 1782 in the island of Jamaica. So if anybody is like, man, I would love to know more about that, just come, I'd be happy to chat with you.
That sounds like a barn burner right there.
Yes. Wow. People are like, I would love to know more about the naval battle of the Seine, 1782. And today is your lucky day.
Our next next one is in 2 weeks, and it is about this movie, Race.
Very sad about missing this one.
That is about the 1936 Berlin Olympics and Jesse Owens, who won 4 gold medals, besting Hitler's master race. Yes. So.
It all ties together. I was thinking that when I was watching this movie, like, oh, it all ties together.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because they mentioned, I believe it was that speech in front of that Southern racist senator.
The only racist in the building, the one from the South. Yes.
Yes.
I was being sarcastic. That's not true.
Obviously, that, you know, it wasn't just African Americans yelling for Jesse Owens and for Joe Louis in those Olympics, that it was all Americans. And so so we get a chance to see that movie. Really excited about that in 2 weeks. And then we also have Dr. Moy coming in the day before that. So it should be a good rest of the month here for everybody. Yeah, we like busy. To wrap up, what I would say is this is a pretty good movie. It does tug at your heartstrings a little bit. You might cry. If you are an unfeeling robot, you might not cry. But it's good. It gives you kind of a good glimpse at what their experiences were, and indeed a little bit of a glimpse of the larger experiences of pilots during World War II and African Americans during and before and after World War II. So I highly recommend this. It is not that long. not that much of a commitment. And you know, if anybody else has anything they want to.
It's also on HBO Max if anybody wants to watch it there, as well as our digital swing. Just saying, because I know some people like to watch it on a bigger screen.
Yeah. And just as an FYI for Race, it is on Netflix.
Okay, I'm excited now.
Yeah. So many of our movies that are coming up, like Dunkirk and Hacksaw Ridge, are also on Netflix. And Unbroken, I believe.
I think so.
So that's all we got then, folks. In the absence of anybody wanting to unmute and
Yes.
yeah.
Thanks, everybody.
Cody, we're doing Dunkirk April 5th. April 5th. So it's after the 8-week class that you are in. So, second 8
That doesn't mean you can't come. Please come.
No, you absolutely can come.
Thank you guys for coming
today.
All right.
Yep. Thank you. I guess we can
Good day.
stop the recording.
Oh, yes.